Okay, I'm back. Hey, people. Sorry about that. Am I on? Yep, Madison. Okay, we're back on. Okay, LeAnn, get on here fast. I think the problem is there were a few people trying to join us. So we're going to, hey, Norma. Oh my gosh. Hey, Ty. Hey, everybody. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it's okay. We're getting there. We're waiting for LeAnn to join us. We had a little rough entry here, but Queen of the Thrones, hey, she's in the toilet business too. She does colon kind of stuff. Yeah. Lindsay Rainwater, hey, Lindsay. Ty Ward, hey, Ty. Hey, Danica, how are you? We got to go. Oh, right here. Okay, I think we have LeAnn. Yes!
Woo! Good work, team.
Let's see. Come on, we're waiting for LeAnn. We're waiting for LeAnn. Yep.
Hi!
Oh my
Hallelujah!
God! That's so good.
Hallelujah!
Yeah.
Hi!
Hi. It was so exciting because there were a few people trying to join. So there were quite a few people. I think we had like a traffic jam there.
Oh, all good. No worries. That just stressed me out so much. I'm like, how do I do this?
Me too. I was saying it takes a whole village around here. Yeah, big
Right?
breath,
Seriously.
big breath,
Big
big
breath.
breath. Yeah,
I
it's
love
just
that you
like
got
a,
out of sweats. I did not get out of sweats today, so
oh, well, good. Yeah, I actually dressed up for this event.
that's
I
nice.
let people choose online what I was going to wear. How are
I love
you?
it. I'm well. I'm well. One moment at a time, right?
Yeah, my gosh, we're in such a wild time right now. That's why I wanted to get on this and just kind of see how everybody's doing and see how you're coping, how I know we've talked a little bit about how things are. I call it this holy shift because I feel like we're at a really, we're some great power gave us a great pause, right? I told my
Totally.
son the other day, I said it's like we all have a big time out.
Right? One that we've all needed to be put in, I feel, for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, there's so many like emotions and things that are coming up, so many levels to this. And we that like I said, 1 minute at a time, because it feels like one day at a time is actually not even true at the moment. It's like 1 minute, one breath, like just staying as present as we possibly can to whatever is coming up. And I feel like I joked the other day, I was like, I feel like by midday, I feel like it's the next day every day, because I feel like I've lived a whole lifetime by noon
Yeah.
in one day. I'm like, it's got to be the next day already. Nope, still the same day. So,
I
yeah,
know. And some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, we're still in our houses again. Okay, we
right,
still really can't go outside. We can't do anything. So it's sometimes it seems completely normal. And then
right.
sometimes reality hits me like, holy shit, what's happening here and what are we doing?
Yeah,
And yeah, just this morning, I know you and I talked about different aspects of ourselves and how we handle that. I'd love to go in further with that with you. But one thing
sure.
that came up for me today was I had to let some people lay a couple people off and terminate a few people. And we held on as long as we could in the company. And I cried all last night, and then this morning, and it was one of those things where it's those sometimes those tough decisions we have to make at a really crappy time. It's
Yeah,
like,
I totally understand that. I mean, it's so interesting because we were talking earlier, the tender heart that we have and the businesswoman, sometimes they really rub up against each other, and it's hard to reconcile certain things. Because I know for myself, like I feel so deeply for everyone that's around me, especially when you've created a relationship with these people. They are like family to you. And at the same time, there has to be a definitive separation. And I mean, I started in this business when I was 13, and I've had people working with me and for me and together for, as a group for since I was a kid. And so I don't think for me, it's never gotten any easier. It's just, you kind of have to put one hat on and do it with as much grace and heart as you possibly can, recognizing that we're the humanity in us all.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have been in here since, like, in this business. And I mean, my God, you started your career at 13 years old. I
I
sent you
was
a voice
little.
text this morning. I'm like, how do you start a career at 13 years old? I get a little weepy just thinking about that and thinking of
Yeah,
being really a child thrown into an adult world. You want to talk about being thrown into a situation? That's a lot.
it is. And it's interesting because, gosh, talk about a reset button. I don't think I've had a 3 month period in my life where, and who knows if it's who knows how long this will be,
Yeah.
where I haven't had to travel, where I haven't had a show. Um, it's weird. It's so creepy. And at the same time, there's like this big exhale because
Yeah.
I feel like I've been holding so much together for so long. And um, there is a big exhale at this moment, but there's a lot of grief around that exhale.
Yeah.
Um, so much of my passion, so much of my heart is filled when I get to walk out on stage, and connect in that way and get to share my gift in that way. So this time has really been about learning all different in different ways for myself, different ways to utilize my voice, such as coming on here with you and talking and sharing my story and your story and being able to connect on a human level, and utilizing a different facet of my own voice. And so it's, yeah, right now it's kind of all of those things, holding it together since I was 13, all that's rising up at the moment. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of self-worth things I think for so many of us rising up at this moment as we have to begin to sit with ourselves. There's not We're not doing for the first time, and I know that one's hitting me really hard, and there's a lot of grief underneath that.
Yeah, I so appreciate you saying that. I was telling someone it's like I've been in this forward momentum run for so long, and it's like, and once you don't have that, you're like, I was running around the house and I've been workshopping and doing all this stuff, and then I'm like, where am I going and what am I running towards, right? It's
Yes,
just like this constant pattern of going forward, and then it's like, oh, we're supposed to be stopping right now and kind of exhaling, this big breath. And I can imagine that's brings up a lot of I know for me it's brought up a lot of fear, like, hey, what's going to
yeah.
happen in my business, what's going to happen in my life, are we going to be in our homes forever? um, and then, how do you deal with that? Especially being on, I mean, you have
Mhm.
events canceled. I can still shift my efforts online. I can shift my business, and I have to let a few people go. A majority still there, which I'm so
Mhm.
excited about. So we're able to pivot, but how do you do that when you're a musician? And
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I think it's posing that question is starting to make us all think outside of the box. Like I said earlier, I'm just learning how to use these different facets of my voice. Where am I? I don't know if necessarily, I mean, my singing voice has kind of been the basis of everything for so long for me. But then what are these other pieces of myself? Where do I want to start sharing my heart? I think that's where I'm starting to get creative. And I'm obviously planning on being able to perform again in the future, but
yeah,
we don't know. I mean, we really don't. So one day at a time, and just I'm staying creative through this whole process. I mean, I'm working on a record right now, so I'm writing, and then I'm also giving myself time to like actually not do anything, because I feel like, and I've seen so much go around on social media and everywhere, like, what's your side hustle? What's the next project? What's the next thing that you're going to be creating and inventing while we're in this stage? And maybe, like, I mean, I feel like to each their own. If that's what your heart is telling you, like, please dive into that. But I think we've been creating so much, of our life. I was just talking to someone about this the other day, from this shadow piece of us, this fear piece of us. And when we sit in, when we sit into love, when we sit into our hearts, where does that take us? I mean, some of us, it may be really taking us under at this moment to rest, like to really rest. And I know for myself, I know my body's wanting that. But my mind sometimes is like, I gotta get up and do it. I gotta get up and go. And it does cause this kind of internal war,
yeah,
and I'm finding that there's been this voice in my head. We all have it. It's that internal bully, and
Yeah.
mine's been really loud my whole life because it's been trying to protect me. It's been trying, I mean, bless it, bless its heart. It's been trying
Yeah.
to protect me from so many things. And when you start, for me, meditation was the way into that, to myself, to understand who I was separate from that voice. And when you start to understand the truth of who you are, the love in which you are, the where you when you reside in the heart space, I think you can really start to differentiate between who you are and that voice that's constantly trying to keep you going. And that's been a it's been something I've been talking about and with my mentors and stuff for a long time, and that voice. And I finally gave it I finally gave it a name. And his name is Tubby. I don't know why his name was Tubby, but I gave him the name of Tubby, and he sounds like this like Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of dude. And he just once I gave him a name, I was kind of able to start differentiating between myself and Tubby. And
Yes.
so it was so helpful to just have some space between
Oh,
recognizing that that voice is not me. That's not the truth of me, and it doesn't have to run me. And
yeah.
just that bit of separation is super helpful, I've been finding, at least at this time.
Yeah, I love the name Tubby. I can see him like in third grade. You know,
Tubby.
he's got little freckles and he's a little bit
Yes,
of a
Tubby.
bully.
Yes. Yeah, but no, that's been super helpful to me to actually give it a name so it doesn't feel like it's my own voice talking.
Yeah, I often feel like, so I hear what type of meditation do you do? Do you do a certain
Oh
practice?
gosh. No, I used to be really rigid about my meditations. Now my main goal is to just sit down
Yeah.
and see what comes, because feel like I have so much in my toolbox these days that just to draw from, that I'm not as rigid about it anymore. Sometimes honestly, if I can just sit down and breathe and close my eyes and be with myself, which sometimes I feel like that's the most difficult thing to do, and at the same time sometimes it's all I have in me, is to just sit and be. And then other times, like I chant, and I'll do certain visualization meditations. I did TM for a while. Like I kind of like just kind of jumping all over the place. But it's usually whatever's in my heart, whatever I need that day, to nourish me is what I do.
Yeah, I was talking with you. I sent you a voice text about being alive, and I teach, to go towards what
Hmm.
what makes you feel alive. And sometimes being alive is sitting and watching the popcorn machine of thoughts. Sometimes in my
Totally.
meditation I drop in and it's so amazing and zen and beautiful place. And then some days it's like a freaking rock show in my head,
Right.
and just like
Yes.
and it's easy for my Tubby, my inner Tubby, my tough cookie is what I call her, to come out and be looking at me like, you're not dropping into meditation, you're not doing it, and just to kind of sit. And I loved what you said about sitting and giving grace to all parts of ourselves wherever we're at in the moment. That really helped me. You sent me a voice text about that, and that helped me last night. Going, oh my gosh, here's business Suzy that has to make these decisions. And then here's empathetic Suzy that says, oh my God, what a horrible time to have to be doing this. And those words really helped me when you talked about
Right.
having grace and loving all aspects of ourselves. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that because I know
Whew.
it helped me last night. It's like, oh, these are different aspects. Sometimes I have to put on the business Suzy suit, right? And
Totally.
those do conflict sometimes. And the same thing in meditation, where some days it's so easy to drop in, and some days it's just like a parade in my head and not beating myself up, going, this is where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think I think that's the grace we're being asked to be, to give ourselves right now. Um, and for me, what I've noticed, I mean, my days, every day is different. Like, especially right now, I wake up angry a lot of the time. Um,
Good.
and yeah, I know, right? You're like, ugh. Which is something that I haven't really, anger is something I've suppressed for a long time. So when I wake up angry, I wake up kind of like, what the hell's happening? What am I supposed to do with this? Um, but I've had to learn, like, that piece is like, all of it is okay. I always talk with my friends about, there's this, who we are as the human and the holy. right? Like we're
Oh,
both, and we can't be one without the other. We just aren't. Um, and one doesn't make you less of the other.
yeah.
And so I think whenever I'm coming up against places where I would judge myself, or places where I feel like, oh, that's less than who I would want to be, or I'm tapping into that anger, which, when used in the right way, is such a tool to cleanse, it's that fire that we can burn up what's no longer needed. But I think we're really being asked to, I guess, to accept both sides of ourselves, to, when we're in the darkness, to allow in the light, and when we're in the light, to realize that the darkness is still there, and that's okay too. Like, it's just such a dance. And
Yeah.
in every moment, I mean, when Tubby kicks in, like, just the awareness of that voice in our head is where it begins,
Yeah.
because then it's just being as aware as we can of how we're feeling in the moment, dropping into our heart, and asking, I mean, I think the biggest question is, what do I need right now? And that's, I
Mm.
don't know about you, but for me, that took years to figure out, to how to answer that question
Yeah.
for the first time. And then when I started to really get in touch with what my needs were, um, that question became a little easier to answer. But still, we rub up against these triggers in us that, some of them, obviously, you and I have worked through a lot of things in our life and healed a lot of places, but there's a lot of stuff that's left unhealed. I know.
Girl.
I'm exhausted, right?
Yeah, I'm like, is this work gonna be done? I was just telling
No.
Sandy the other day, I was like, oh, I woke up the other day and it was like, Daddy lived in shame. And I'm like remembering this thing of like my dad in shame. And I just broke up with my boyfriend and connecting the shame. And then I was going in with therapists about how that triggered my own shame. And
Mhm.
I was like, good Lord. I mean, I've been on this path for a solid 17 years in a
Wow.
hardcore way. And then sometimes I get exhausted, right? Like, oh my God, is this ever going to be done? And at the same time, what if that is the process, as for us always discovering these parts and coming back? And I love that word holy, because whenever you say that, I see like a pie
Yeah.
and like a whole pie, right?
Totally.
And all
Yes.
like WHOLL,
Hmm.
LLY, how do you spell that? But it's like a whole pie, like a
Yep.
whole in every aspect of ourselves. How do you handle anger? I'll let you know what I did the other day, but that was a tough one for me too.
Yeah. So
Still is.
I grew up, yeah, it still is. I grew up with a lot of anger in my household, and I was afraid of it. I was afraid of that piece of me. And um, I have a wonderful teacher that I work with, that he recommended the other day that I totally let out my Kali, which Kali for everybody is, the
Oh yeah.
goddess of death, basically, and also creation, because where there's death,
Yeah.
there's creation. And that's that warrior mother energy of like protecting, your inner child. Um, and so he was suggesting that I get back in touch with that piece of me, and he wanted me to, like, full on, just like like rage. So I put on a song. There's this song, this Tori Amos song. The lyrics are, God, sometimes you just don't come through. And I like, for me right now, it's like
Ooh.
such a great lyric. So I put on that song, and I just watched myself in the mirror while I just raged.
Yeah.
And it was like, whew, it's exhausting, and it's like exhilarating all at the same time. He wanted me to video it and then watch myself back, and then also like voice record myself of how was I judging myself. But I
Oh,
actually didn't film it. I just watched it in the mirror, and I was shocked. I actually didn't judge myself.
oh,
It
good.
felt it felt amazing. It felt like true power. A piece of me that I was calling back, definitely, because I think for me, being in that rage and that anger always ended in, that Kali rage, it ended in some kind of death. I felt like, because I wasn't aware of it, because I wasn't aware of what was bubbling up underneath, I would just take a match and like burn everything down. And I never had the option to access that clean anger, to make the decision. If I wanted to burn it down, it would be my own conscious decision, not unconscious decision. And so, getting back in touch with that piece, and allowing it to move through me is so, so important. And I've done it twice now, and it's a full body like experience.
Yeah.
I've tried to just do it with my face and my hands, like just sit still, and I'm like, nope, it's a full body experience. So yeah, that's been something that's recent for me that's been really helpful.
Yeah, I remember I was going through a divorce. I think my ex-husband's on here, Hector. Say hey. But I remember
Hi.
I was filled with hey Hector. I remember, and we're amazing friends, but I remember just this anger coming out. It wasn't particularly at him, it was just at this life change and what was happening. And I live in a church, and there was something about being in that big space. And my assistant at the time, I would tell my assistant and housekeeper, I would just send them a note. And Sandy, you remember this? Yeah, Sandy's over here going, she was in my house a lot. She stays with me a lot. And I would just say, I'm going to scream. And I would just scream to the point where I'm just, crying and down on my
Mhm.
knees, because I never had that space to do that as a woman. I think we're always taught, you're a bitch if you get angry. So what my pattern was to hold everything in, and then I would just, then I would explode everywhere, rather than going out into the woods or nature, or if you're in a large space, being able to just really somatically, physically let that roar. And it's still hard for me. I've done it twice here since I've been here, and just stood on the cliff, and it's always like, oh my gosh, what if the neighbors look? What if
Right.
somebody sees? But what I know, right? They're gonna like call the cops. But what I know is if I don't do that, that's gonna come out in some other sideways
Mhm.
way. So I love that you say clean, right? It's like, can I respect and honor that I feel angry? And that's
Mhm.
okay. If you look at animals in the wild, right? Sometimes, you'll see like a mama cub. It's a violation. It's a trespass. We
Mhm.
all have that, whether it's a trespass within ourselves or someone else has trespassed us, just to be able to just be like, I am angry. And
Yeah.
yeah, I hear that you had that the other day about the situation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to audition to be a cheerleader. And my dad took me to, I know, my dad took me to the doctor because he wanted my voice doctor to explain to me why I couldn't scream. So I never got to be a cheerleader, which is really sad because I really wanted to be, but it's okay.
Oh.
I'll dress up for one at Halloween or something. No, but
We can do that. We can do
yes,
like a redo.
yay! Yes, please.
Because
But
I wanted to be in one too.
oh, did you really? Oh my
Yeah.
God, I love you.
We can
Um,
learn a routine.
Yes, yeah, I would love it. Let's be. I remember going to Dallas Cowboy cheerleader camp, which was so funny. I was like probably 7.
Yeah.
Then it was yeah. So I definitely wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader at one point. Um, but it's interesting because I never, from that moment on, I never screamed. Like that is a piece of me. I'm still terrified to scream, like fully scream because I feel like I'm gonna hurt myself. So there was talk about a well of emotion that I
Oh.
had never let out. I mean, I've let it out here and there. I've let it out when I know that I don't have shows for like 2 weeks, and if I scream too loud and something happened, like I'd be okay. But yes, I definitely have tried to find other ways to move that through my body than through my voice. And it's challenging. It's definitely challenging. But I think I'm finding it now, like the full body release, like fully letting yourself just like go for it.
Yeah.
And underneath that anger, you say you scream until you cry because underneath that anger is truthfully what I find is grief.
Oh, yeah.
It's
So
a
much.
lot, there's a lot of sadness and grief there, and I think the anger is just what's trying to protect us from feeling the even deeper emotion that's underneath. And I think that's what's so beautiful is that rage and that anger can, once you let that out, then you get to that next level of grief. And man, like all of a sudden when you start to feel that, you clear space. I mean, I think when I go into any meditation or any of my practices, with breath work or anything of that nature, I want to clear space. I want to make some space for some joy to come in, to
Yeah.
feel like, so that it doesn't feel like there's so much contraction intention. And, I think that's usually, other than, obviously to connect with source, to connect with who
Mhm.
I truly am. The other piece of that for me is to clear space.
Yeah, that's it. My mentor, one of my mentors, Gay Hendricks, says that, again, it's like this whole pipe. And if we have unfelt sadness and grief and anger that's stored, it's almost like constipation, that there's
Right.
only a small part of the pipe that joy and love and abundance can get through, right? So
Hmm.
a lot of times we wonder, why aren't we happy, or why don't we wake up with joy? But what we haven't honored is that grief and sadness that's actually blocking all of that. There's just no room. It's a bandwidth issue, right?
Yep, totally.
Yeah. For me, I feel like, and I can't even imagine that layer of about your voice and
Hmm.
screaming in anger. My God, like just when you said that, I was like, holy shit. Yeah, because
It's
I have the
intense.
luxury of being able to scream, right? I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I just, you never think about that. Like, and I've had so many people, that I've worked with, like, oh, just go scream. And I'm like, well, let's have a conversation about that for a moment. Like,
yeah,
that's a real deep one for me. And trusting. I mean, like I said, I've leaned into the screaming thing before, and just trusting that it needed to happen, and
yeah,
whatever happened after it needed to happen too. It's kind of, you have that trust muscle. That trust muscle is something that I still work on daily. I think we all do. Really
yeah.
leaning in. I've been reading a few things lately about, just really thinking about our will versus divine will, and
Oh,
really truthfully trusting that divine will. I love the Course in Miracles, which is one of my favorite things. And, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And like, and fully trusting that where you are, where you've been placed, is where you should be. Um, whew, I'll cry when I think about that. But
yeah.
it's yeah, and I don't, the plan of divine will is, I think what we are so being asked to just like to be, we're asking to hand over hours at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And and who knows what's on the other side of that, but I would like to believe it's something better than what we thought we had.
Yeah, man, I so resonate with that because I just feel like this inner, especially with people like you and I think probably most people on here, most people have had some sort of their own pain, and we
Hmm.
learned like this tough will muscle. Like I can push my way through anything, like I've, imagine you, being on the road, you're on night after night after night after night after night of touring, and the extreme amount of will that you have to put forward to show up, stand up, be available, and to completely be vulnerable in front of an audience takes, that's a really big muscle, right? So
Hmm.
you're like a bodybuilder will
Right.
person, the same as me, hard
Yes.
life, like I'm gonna tough this through. And then you have to switch all of a sudden to this divine trust, and it's like scary as can be. Like,
Well, and that's also like that masculine and feminine. I mean, I've known, since I've been learning about the masculine and feminine in each of us, I realized how masculine I've been my whole life. I've had to keep the structure, and I've had to do the job, and I've had to just be the one that takes care of that side of things, and the receiving end of it, to be in the feminine, to be receptive
oh,
and flow, and also that anger, that rage comes from the feminine also, like to tap into all those properties for myself. That has been one of my biggest lessons. And I think also, as we're having this downtime where we can't control everything anymore, it's like, wait, all the control that we thought we had, is gone. And so we're really being asked to slide into that feminine a little more, and feminine. Um, and I think my days, that's also going back to the loving both sides of ourselves, and appreciating both sides of ourselves. Because one day I can be totally my masculine and be like on it, and I'm creating and doing, and then the next day I'm like, oh, I just want to like eat whatever's in front of me, and I don't
Real
want to work
talk.
out today. And yes, and that's fine. But when that happens, my masculine kicks in. That masculine brain of like, I've got stuff to do. I've got women to miss out on something. Like,
Yeah.
that total inner dialogue. And and also something that I learned about the masculine and feminine and us being in our masculine so much, I didn't realize how feminine I was
Yeah.
and how much I think part of my inner struggle was that my feminine was so desiring to be heard and seen and witnessed, and brought to light, brought to the surface, so that it could dance with the masculine. Um, but it was just deprived. I really was depriving myself of such a piece of me. I just didn't know how to tap into because the masculine had been so overly worked.
Yeah, mine too. I told it just whenever I've been dancing with that same thing. My therapist told me, she's like, gosh, a couple of years when I started working with her, she's like, you've got the masculine figured out and you have the warrior, the feminine warrior really down. She said but the biggest part you're missing is the really true feminine part, and that's receiving.
Hmm.
And one thing she talked about was overgiving. Like the reason I overgive is because there's a lot more control. I can control when I give, and you
Oh
can't
yeah.
control when you receive. So just the thought of having to just sit there and receive whatever is given to you or without controlling that, like, oh, everything in my belly just goes, oh, holy shit.
I feel the same thing as you say that. And that's what we're being asked to do.
It's what
That's
we
what we're being asked to do.
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, can
Hmm.
we receive? And I've been really evaluating, like, what am I doing and why am I doing it? And what do I want to do for the rest of my life? I'm 55. You started your career at 13, which is great. So you're
Yes.
way younger, but I even go, it's like, I don't feel 55 like my life's over, but yet there's a part of me where this is when I get really weepy. Like I could cry right now. Like I'm so done with yeah, this is it. It's like with that pushing and I really am finding a place where I want to be in service more. So I hear
Hmm.
what you're saying when we tune into the divine and divine will, like use me, and I
Hmm.
feel scared, because I can't control the way I'm being used. you
Totally.
know it's like, and being open to that is really a terrifying and truly necessary shift, that holy shift that I'm in the middle of. Like, okay, Suzy, you proved it. How much more do I want to keep proving? Sure, I can keep building businesses and I can keep crushing it, and on the other side there's a part of me that's just really tired you know
Oh yeah. I feel you. I so
and
feel you on that. I
yeah.
understand that. And that's like I said, going back to loving all that, that is all okay. That is so okay. And that's the thing too, is, something I'm learning for myself. What's enough? What's enough? And who says, and who are we, whose version of enough are we living up to? And as long as we continue to not define what enough is for ourselves and live up to the expectations of what is enough for the outside world, like we'll never be enough.
Yeah.
Um, and that is something I'm questioning for myself. What is enough? How much more do you have to prove? How much, like, and I think, we talk about manifesting our lives from that shadowy side, from that fear-based place. That's what we're talking about,
Yeah.
when we start defining that for ourselves and allowing our heart to, our deepest desires, our truest desires to lead us. That is, I think that's when we talk about creating this new world, this new earth. I mean, that is, I feel, what the difference between the two is. We start creating and manifesting out of our truest desire. And yeah, it is terrifying because we are handing, it's a different will. We are handing that over. Um, and it's okay to be scared. And I find that, though, the more I follow that, the more at peace I feel, because I know I'm on my path of what we're all, each of us have our own path, what we're here to do. And the more that I follow it, and the more I look around going, wow, this is way different than I thought it was supposed to look, but it feels good. And I think so much, something that came up for me recently was so huge. I understood how much we've all been worried so much about the perception that we forget about the reality. Like, and we're now being asked to look at the reality and make the reality just as good as the perception, if not, and better than the perception. But we so looked outward, to try to keep up something that we forget to take care of, like the true world, the true inner world.
Yeah, and I think that's what the world's doing right now. On some level, there's this big time out going. If you
Mhm.
see like China and everybody's seen the image of where all the smog,
Right.
was reduced. It was like even just Gaia, Mother Earth was like, time out, people.
Enough.
I need a breath,
Yeah.
right? So what I love about this time, it's terrifying and it can be terrifying, and that we all don't know. It's also a really good place of really seeing, like, we're not going out to dinner every night, we're not going to movies. I'm so enjoying the creativity. I think
Hmm.
I saw that. Did you see the Getty Museum here in LA that gave out a toss for couples or families to recreate famous paintings using
Oh,
household
that's so
items?
cool.
Yeah. So there's all this really interesting crafts and resurgence of creativity and spending time with family. And I feel like we're getting a real value adjustment, like
Hmm.
what really is important. While I'm excited to go out to a restaurant again at some point, you know
Yes.
but it's like I don't need that, and I get to really
Mhm.
see that I'm whole and complete sitting here, and I can be just as alive. I'm here with two roommates that such a wild, interesting thing. We're here with this guy, Dustin Thomas. I have to send you some of his music, but he's 27. And anyway, I was with my boyfriend. He said, "You should have Dustin. We can work on music together." I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend during this process. So
Oh
Dustin's still
no.
here. I know. So we've got this 27-year-old guy here with a 55-year-old and a 58-year-old woman. He's got like these two mamas. So we have like
I
this
love it.
reality show going on, kind of
Uh,
going, how do we all fit? And it's been so beautiful and lovely and connecting, and we're all learning from each other and realizing that I'm realizing I need way less than I thought, than I
oh
ever
yeah.
needed. I don't have all my shit at my house. I don't have anything. And I'm like, do I really need this pedicure? Yeah, my toes look a little janky. I'd love one, but I'm okay, you know?
Right. Yes.
And getting back to that raw part of ourselves is really interesting, because that's who we were as a child, right? I love that you're
Hmm.
saying bringing back these childhood parts of ourselves. um, what this has brought up for me recently is the fear. I grew up in also a family where my dad was a rager, and I was terrified all the time because I didn't know what was going to happen. It was change, uncertainty, and nothing was predictable. You didn't know from moment to moment, which I have amazing intuition because of that. Hypervigilance. I know what's going on in a room,
You
but
and I are
also,
so the same when it
you
comes to
know
that.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, somebody goes, "I'm okay," and you're like, "No, you're not." Like, I know this,
Yeah.
right? But then at the same time, it's like really tuning in to that little child and honoring the voices of being angry and scared and going, there's a part of me that's really terrified right now, and when I look around at reality, I'm okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right? So I
Um,
love the perception. I hear a lot of fear and, oh my God, what's happening in our world, and I've been
mhm.
telling my family and friends, like, I hear you, and I hear that you feel scared or you feel angry, and look around, like, I'm okay and I feel really good. That's the
Yeah.
reality.
And moment to moment, like we're saying earlier, like whenever I'm really spun out, I just bring myself back into the moment. Like, okay, that's mindfulness. Like, what can I taste, hear, feel? What are all my senses telling me in this moment in time? And just my mantra for myself is, in this moment, I'm safe. In the
Yes.
next moment, in this moment, I am safe. Like, I am safe. I'm safe right now. Um, and when we start linking together moment to moment of that. Like we end up with days and weeks, and we end up with time where we really start to trust that we are truly safe. Um, right now, I mean, all I want is, as long as I have food and my family, like, I mean, it's so wonderful. That's what we're learning. That's all we really need. And it's funny because of us women, we're like, our nails, our everything's like, we're all melting in the mirror, like in front of ourselves, like, what's happening? And men too, but it's, we think that we have to have all these things um, to beautify ourselves and to make ourselves more than we think, that's not already enough. And so I think for me, as this is all happening, I'm like, oh, I guess I just don't really, like you're saying, I guess I don't really need that much.
Yeah.
I'm okay. And looking at how, in all the ways that we've been trying to keep ourselves in this box out of fear, like all the things we run and do to keep ourselves, like that, to keep us living up to the idea of the thing that we think we have to be. And now that that's all falling away, I'm starting to realize like how much fear was driving my life in so many areas. Um, and then loving me without all the things. And I kind of like me better sometimes. I'm like, you're
Yeah, me
much
too.
calmer without like running around trying to fit into someone's box. Yeah, no, it's definitely brought to light, in all the ways that I've been allowing fear to run my life. One of my dear friends, Daryl Brown, said to me the other day, you need to love yourself in the poverty as much as you do the prosperity. And I thought that would hit so
Ooh,
home for you.
interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. I thought that would hit so home for you. And it has for me too. Like I
Oh,
grew up with nothing. And
oh,
honestly, and the fear of having it, with all of this again, like the fear of being in that place again, possibly, like just even that thought, um, it's made me go, oh yeah, I haven't loved the poverty in me. I
yeah.
haven't loved the one that doesn't know, that can't have that. And she's the one that's coming up right now that is so desperately wanting to be loved. And
Mm.
man, when he said that yesterday to me, I was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh yeah, that's it. That's the thing. That's what's asking to be loved.
Yeah, what if it all got stripped away,
Yeah.
and who would we be? And I often say, oh, I'd be great if I just had a backpack. I'll say in meetings, I've been rich and I've been poor, and I know that I'll be
Hmm.
fine with just if I have a backpack and just hop out on the streets, let's go. And when I really, really think about that, sales start going down or something, I'm like, "Wah!" All that goes
Right.
out the window, because how could I lose this part of what people see me as or what I have attached my value to?
Hmm.
It's like, who would I be without that? And
You'd
there's,
be you,
I
and you're so
know.
amazing. And you're so amazing. I mean, that's what's so wonderful is that we're starting to learn like we would be us, and us is enough. And then our creativity, we're all creative beings. We'd figure out something from there. We just
Totally.
would.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to really like sit in that going, oh, that's okay. Like it could all go away, and look, I'm still alive.
I'm
It's
good.
all good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Like I'm breathing, and from that breath I can move forward.
I'm really curious how many people's lives will change after this, like
Oh God, so
really, because
many.
this is a really, if we're not numbing ourselves out, with whatever we numb ourselves out with, whatever our drug of choice is, and really face and look at, what do we really value? And then how can you rebuild from there, just from this
Hmm.
core structure? And like, do I really need that? What if you couldn't sing again? What if I never had another business? What if it all collapses? And then what's going to happen? I feel
Yeah.
terrified and equally excited too. Kind of
Hmm.
like, let's let all
Yeah.
the
Well,
structures fall down and
yeah,
then let's rebuild.
exactly. Well, and that's, gosh, I mean, there's some things in life we would just never, when you built yourself up, when you built your business up, when you built your brand up, like I said earlier, I would never just stop and be like, I'm not, for several months, I'm just not going to perform. That's just never been in me. Sometimes it's not, sometimes outward. sources, Mother Earth, like God, natural causes, everything has to like strip us down, and then we build back up. And for me, I think for all of us at this moment in time, that's exactly what's happening. And we're getting to really get in touch with the truth of who we are and recognize that um, all of these names and labels that we give ourselves are so they're just so inconsequential actually. Like they just don't matter.
Yeah, I so appreciate I know the first time that I met you, I was just like, you have such depth. And
Thank
I didn't
you.
know that. It's so easy to think, oh, she's a famous star, and but the amount of depth you have really touches me on a really deep level to know that you go through the same inward journey, that we all do and that I do. And it's easy to put labels on people like that, and
Mhm.
just to realize that, everyone's human, everyone struggles, everyone's going through these same motions
Mhm.
at different times and at different levels. And that's what being alive is. I talk about being alive. Being alive is all of it. It's the whole complete thing. It's being angry. It's being sad. It's being, your heart broken when you're down on your knees, bawling. It's being full of joy when you win an award or you get to perform. It's literally the whole gamut, right, of
Right.
everything. And it's easy to think that being alive is just this, you always have to be happy or joyful or abundant. But really, I have a tattoo on me. It says, "This dance is the joy of existence," from Rumi. And it's always
Mhm.
to remind me that at the end of my life, like laying and dying, I know I would look back in my life and say, I would take that, right? It's like, there's some appreciation of all of it, of the whole gamut, of the hard life that got you to where you are. I know we're going to look at this pandemic, which feels at times excruciating and painful and horrible. And I know in a few months we'll look back and be like, wow, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for that
Oh yeah,
thank you for the amazing gift.
there are definitely gifts within this. Once again, all in the perception and the way that we see it. And some days I absolutely don't see any of the gifts, and then other days I'm, so grateful that we have this moment in time. So, um, once again, it's being true to the moment, being true to whatever you're feeling in the moment is so important. And man, I feel like we're all being challenged to such great depths of authenticity.
Yeah.
I mean, and how wonderful. I mean, look, the gift that this is given. Like, would we come on and talk about all of this necessarily and just offer all of this up if this wouldn't have happened? I mean,
No
I'm
way.
I'm I'm pretty much an open book, but for you to have this wonderful space for us to do this, and I think when we're all in this together, separately in our own worlds, but together, um, these kind of moments really hit home even deeper, because we're all sharing the same experience. And so the more we can actually verbalize this experience and normalize this experience for people, um, and each other, uh, the better we're going to come out of this. Like, I think being asked to like just not hide, like come out of hiding.
Oh,
It's okay.
yeah. And we need to.
Yeah,
Yeah, we all
big
need to
time.
come out of hiding. Yeah. Sandy just said, what'd you just say? Like the silver lining.
Yeah, it's all going to show. The silver lining is going to show
Yeah, the
eventually.
silver
It
lining's
will.
going to show, and it's not there's sometimes when, people are just like, oh, it's all positive and it's all wonderful. And that's not real either. Real
Mm-mm.
is in the moment, like you said, what's being alive is I just freaking feel sad, being able
Mhm.
to cry and go, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm 55. I feel the age thing. It's like, not age as in I don't look young or whatever. It's age as in like mortality, realistically. And it's like making sure I want to spend that time coming straight from my heart and what I truly desire and want to do. And I think
Yeah.
that we all have that opportunity. I often wondered with Poopery, like how many employees are going to be like, I don't want to work here anymore. And which will be great. I mean, I feel terrified, at the same time, like,
Right.
what'll happen? But then what a wonderful reset. I even the other day said, do we even need an office? We're working great
Right.
virtually.
So many people are saying that at the moment, I believe, which
Yeah.
is quite interesting. I mean, it just really is giving us an opportunity to really, to take a look at every aspect of our lives and re and really think outside of our normal box and create new things. And that's really exciting because I love creating. And so it's, to me, it's like, what are the new things? What are the fun things that we can create from this?
Oh, it's so great. I know we have a couple minutes, but I wanted to say that we're
Yep.
making a donation to Music Cares.
Yes.
What you
Thank you so
said.
much.
Yeah, and you
Yes.
wanted, if anybody wants to donate to Music Cares, that would be really great. Can you give a quick blurb about what you
Yes.
do?
Yes, definitely. Just check out Music Cares, Google Music Cares. You can go to their website and donate through the website. But I definitely, there's so many musicians, so many people in this industry right now that are just we're all without work. And, there's so many industries that's happening in. But I know that, for us, um, as performers, as producers and engineers, everybody that creates music everybody's in need. So if you have even the smallest thing, would be grateful. I know so many people would be grateful.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, music really
Thank you.
does. If music helps keep us. I remember when you talked about anger, I remember after my second bankruptcy, I put on headphones and just listened to Disturbed,
I
you
love
know?
Disturbed. I remember you telling me that, and I'm like, that's so
Yeah!
good.
I was just like, I need
Yes.
music to match where I'm at. When I was going through my
Totally.
divorce, it was old sappy country. I remember the day I woke up and didn't listen to old sad country anymore. It's like, so
Oh, I love that.
music is really a catalyst right now that we can use to help us move through as well, to move through the anger, to
Totally.
move through the fear, to move. So thank you for the gift of music. Thank you for
Oh.
I feel teary. Thank you for what you share in the world. When I saw you at EarthX and you took off your heels and you
Oh
were
yeah.
you were barefoot, I didn't even know you then. I was like, this girl is going to be my friend.
Totally. My heels last on stage for maybe like 5 or 6 songs, and then they have to go. It's something about my feet on the earth, something about
Yeah,
my feet on the ground. I
yeah.
feel like when I open my mouth to sing and like connected to my heart, like my feet have to feel the earth. And
Yeah.
more and more, I don't wear shoes on stage, and more, I just don't give a shit. So it's all
I
good.
know this is this big fancy event, and I'm like, she
Yes.
has her shoes off. I love this woman. So thank you for
Oh,
being an
good.
earth mama, connected to earth. Thank you for
Yes,
being so connected
absolutely.
to your soul. I know some of your work that's going to be coming out next year. We won't talk about, but I know that the world needs it, loves it,
Thank you.
and thank
Thanks
you.
for
Thank
having me
you.
on here.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
love chatting with you.
Yeah, I know it was so fun, and thank you for the blessings that you've given me about how to handle this time. It's great
Absolutely. Well,
and
I'm here. I'm here
resonated.
whenever.
Okay. Okay. Sounds great, honey. I love you. Mwah.
Thank you. I love you
Okay.
too.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye,
guys for joining
everybody.
us.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. I don't know how to
Hold
do
on, I
this.
don't either. There we go.
I think I just hit end. Okay. Thank you guys so much. LeAnn is amazing. It's always amazing to see the depths that people have that you perceive as being one way, and then you hear really her groundedness, rootedness, and her big, beautiful heart. I know that that's everyone's capacity that we have. So thank you. If you guys have any questions for her, actually just, shoot those over on a DM or somewhere like on Suzy Batiz. We are going to be starting in a live course, a live OS. It's a course that I wrote. We're going to be opening up. People have wanted this for a long time. I am going to be opening up some what they call applications. It's going to be very limited, but we'll let you know about that. So thank you. I love you all. Thank you for, yep, thank you so much. Oh, love you, ladies. Okay, bye. Are you sure you want to end the video? Do I put in now?
Yep.
End.